Howdy, listeners. Just right up front, I want to give a disclaimer that this is not going to be your standard Armchair Analysts podcast episode. Ace and I decided that in a time when our nation is burning and bleeding, that they're just not important right now. There's a lot of other stuff going on that just makes it just seem so futile at the moment. So we'd like to take a little bit of time to discuss what people can do to try to invoke changes you'd like to see, try to rebuild, clean up, and try to get past and move on, and hopefully learn something from the whole process. So I just want to start again. If this is not up your alley, feel free. We're not going to be offended. You can turn us off right now. Don't download, whatever. But for those of you who do care a little bit and want to find out maybe things you could do to try to improve, if you weren't directly involved with any of the changes so far, if you want to do something going forward, we'd like to give you some resources maybe that can kind of help you guide you in the right way depending on where you're living. So with that being said, our boy Ace here, he actually lives in Minneapolis, if you don't recall. So obviously this is a little bit bigger, in his neck of the woods than most of ours, even though pretty much every large city in America is seeing some sort of ramifications from this. Ace, you got just want to maybe walk us through the last week, how things are going, maybe just take the temperature right now and how today's going. And this, by the way, this is Monday, June 1st, so we're just a few days after everything. So go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah. So I live about a mile and a half south, almost directly south from where George Floyd was murdered by cops, unfortunately. And so there's clearly been protests, silent, peaceful, quiet. Like public leaders have been down there. Small business owners have been down there to give speeches throughout the days after this had happened. And one thing that was kind of odd is I was recording an interview last Tuesday afternoon for this particular podcast. And obviously that's when things kind of really got serious Tuesday leading into Wednesday when the protests really erupted. I think they ended up burning the 3rd precinct. And then the following night, Thursday, they burned the 5th precinct, which is both of those locations are right along Lake Street, just on opposite sides of 35W. The 5th one being closer to 35W, and the 3rd precinct being closer east of 35 on Hiawatha, closer to Hiawatha Avenue. But yeah, overall it's pretty tragic, and I think I think this really speaks to not only systemic racism but an overall police reform in general throughout the nation. And when I say that, I don't want this to come off political, because I think a lot of this has to do with how governments are funded, meaning that police forces are sometimes understaffed without the necessary resources. And so I think that's part of the issue. And then, secondly, get cops that shouldn't be there, get them out. We need more people to be accountable for their actions, no matter if you're wearing a badge or not. And sadly, I think this all could have been, it should have never gotten to the point of riots. If you believe the story and what had happened, where him and George Floyd and his friend had counterfeit $20 bills at this store, they were asked to leave. Nothing, whatever, got violent at that. Like, nothing happened at that point. So him and his buddy leave. They go across the street where their vehicle is parked, and there's another person in the car too. But then, because the store owner happens to notice that they're still there, he calls the police on them. Well, it should have never gotten this aggressive. And so yeah, point is, overall, I think there needs to be stronger government funding for civil services, not only police force, but in healthcare with technology, to make sure that basically these divisions where everyone has to chip in, and you want to feel safe. And if you can't feel safe, and a lot of people really don't feel safe here. One of the more fascinating things too that I read is that the Minneapolis Public School District is canceling their contract with the police department to be able to provide safety at the schools, on-site personnel, and then even responses to violence or things that break out at their schools. That was a $1 million a year contract. That's just ixed now. It's gone, which is, you know, huge, huge deal, I think. But yeah, overall, it's kind of tragic, and I think there's a lot of mental efforts that need to change within the police force, as well as what I mentioned earlier, where funding needs to keep these useful services in business. Like, you can't have a shortage of police officers. You can't have guys that are drained on their jobs that aren't, you know, mentally focused or in it for the right reasons either. There's a lot of that goes into it. I understand that, but yeah, overall, I think this should have never gotten to the point that it got to.
Yeah, maybe even a period of reevaluation, like after a couple years, kind of just, and people change, I'm not to say that this, the officers involved weren't,
Yep.
Less than wonderful people beforehand, but clearly there's some sort of disconnect here, because if that person was hired today, I guess it just kind of depends on, like you said, if it's a lack of resources, like, well, we can't fire him because, he's got to walk this beat and cover this beat. And I think it all kind of is related. So, yeah, those are good points. I definitely concur. And it's unfortunate that, everything escalated the way it did. I mean, cities all across America. I mean, when I heard that Des Moines and Lincoln, Nebraska, smaller, quieter towns, but
and it was fast.
Also, oh yeah. I mean, like I said, this is Monday the 1st, so it's all been pretty widespread, and the worst part is that it started off with peaceful protests, and and there's some people instigating, and unfortunately, the point was made.
Yep.
But today we still had highway closures, a lot more vandalism and stuff here in Madison, but obviously nothing to the degree of Minneapolis. But it's ringing closer to home than most people want to admit, and unfortunately, as just a private citizen, we don't have a ton of power, but there are some resources, and we'll touch into those a little bit later, on what you can do, people you can talk to, and it's got to start somewhere. Obviously people are probably scrambling now in positions of power, trying to figure out what exactly to do, what they can't be doing, and unfortunately right now all we're getting is sound bites and official statements and some stuff on social media. So nothing real has actually happened, unfortunately. So I think they're still just trying to buy time to figure out what exactly direction that they could go. But
and of course, knowing how our country is, everybody's, there's going to be divisions. Basically, unions are going to come out in police unions are going to come out probably sharply against leadership, and it's just going to be a mess.
I think I guess even within my own social sphere and my family and other people's social spheres, I'm noticing that there's a lot less divide on this than you might think.
Yep.
I understand that people in the in the police forces and that kind of stuff are going to be a little wary at some of the changes, but I think overall, I think the public, even though they might have a little bit different thoughts on the riots and the looting and stuff, I think overall, I think the whole point is pretty much the same across the board, that
absolutely
shit's got to change, and that, like you said, this never should have happened in the first place. But we've said that how many times now.
Yeah,
so
that's a great point.
Yeah,
and I know there's a ton of resources here to help with the cleanup and everything, especially because they've been having food donations at middle schools in the area and churches and whatnot. So it's nice to see them rebuild. And even after the violence day after day, there's people on the streets cleaning up, most likely business owners and their friends getting people involved to help, because unfortunately there's a lot of small businesses that were lost amongst all of this. And I know that's not the same as a human life, but it is, somebody did work hard for that.
It's messed up. I mean, there's no real other way to say it. It's a mess up situation, but if you're sitting at home, if you're sitting at work or wherever, and you are not sure, what can you contribute? What can you do? for your community. I know that I have a few places that I pulled up. You know what? Even if it's not directly helping, solve any problems, but it's just maybe just to make you feel better, knowing that, maybe right now a lot of the money that's being donated, it's going to the emergency relief funds for your cities or towns. It's hard to get that out of your mind, but at the same time, you got to realize that a lot of other places are still needing donations. So if you feel the need to do good, if you feel the need to invoke some positive change in a otherwise dark time, secondharvestmadison.org. They're always looking for donations for the Second Harvest Food Bank. Friends of State Street Family, they're helping out the homeless in Madison. Always a good one. Or if you just want to get right into it, the Downtown Emergency Relief Fund. They have a $200,000 goal. They're about 3/4 of the way there. They're found at GoFundMe.com /F/downtown-emergency-relief-fund. I will be donating as soon as we conclude here. A lot of senseless violence and theft happened over the last couple of days, and I think it's at minimum. If you're not able to go clean, throw them a few dollars. It won't hurt. It'll probably make you feel a lot better, and it'll go back to the community to try to make things obviously not exactly the way they were, but trying to get some of these innocent business folk back in shape. So aside from that, if you don't feel like donating, you want to get more right to the point, it's time to start calling and writing your representatives. We vote. These people are voted into office. This is their time to shine. If you're looking for whoever's in your district, I got a couple resources. You can actually look up all the Wisconsin state legislators if you're not actually in Madison like myself. You're somewhere else. You're in Milwaukee, another huge hotspot the last few days. If you need to reach out, plenty of resources online. legis.wisconsin.gov /Senate. They'll give you everybody here that you're looking for. A lot of other helpful links to help find out who exactly is in your area. Another good one is maps.legis.wisconsin.gov. Literally breaks up every single area of Wisconsin, so no matter what county, what city you are, it can't get much simpler than this. And if you are actually in downtown Madison and you are looking for people that you can call, people that you can email, Senator Fred A. Risser and Representative Chris Taylor. They're both available. Democrats from Madison, right in the heart of the city for the Capitol. They got their email, phone number, everything's there. Feel free, reach out. Let them know how you feel. Let them know what you want to see done. This is what they're there for, guys. So feel free to reach out. I'm sure Aaron's got a few places that he would like to rattle off too if you're closer to Minneapolis and want to help out.
Yeah, so I'll be fairly quick, but if you're actually living in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, surrounding areas, Central Neighborhood Development Organization is accepting donations, or drop-offs, I should say. The 3715 Chicago Avenue, almost right across or near, where the scene all happened at 38th in Chicago. Another one, Loaves and Fishes. They have a handful of locations, one of which being at Sanford Middle School. But you can go to their website at loavesandfishesmn.org to potentially find a location where you can drop off a free healthy meal to the Minnesota residents that were affected, the Minneapolis residents. The Minneapolis Public Schools is still accepting food donations, and this has been going on since COVID started. So that's one way you can get involved, and that's cws.mpls.k12.mn.us/COVID-19. Let's see. People and Pets Together. They have, for pets, obviously, if you can't get cat food or dog food and you were affected in that area, you can check out their website as well. Just Google search People and Pets Together. And then finally, for monetary donations, one of the bigger ones is the Lake Street Council. They've raised over $2 million so far, which is amazing, and 100% of the profits go toward small businesses and the nonprofit. Well, I think for this part it'll mostly be small businesses, but if a few nonprofits were affected, it'll go to them as well, 100% of the proceeds. So yes, I'm hoping to help out Wednesday with some of the cleanup crew, and then maybe Saturday and Sunday. So
plenty of resources, a lot of opportunities to help.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if that fits the criteria of you and your mood right now, I mean, everyone could use a little pick-me-up. So if it means, a quick donation or shouting out to one of your representatives, say, hey, this is some bullshit. Definitely, if this doesn't require social change, I don't know what the hell does. This is your opportunity. We will give you guys all of the links that we listed. Will be posted. We'll tag them in on YouTube for you guys in the description section, or we'll also put them up on Twitter as well if you don't use YouTube. So either way, would love to get you guys involved somehow if you want to be. Just wanted to get a few things off our chest.
Mm-hmm.
Really didn't feel like sports had a place in today's discussion at all whatsoever. So hopefully this gives you guys at least a few opportunities to make a difference and help invoke some change in your local community. And I hope everyone is staying safe, whether you listen or not. This is a messed up time, and there's no reason to put yourself in harm's way. So we appreciate you guys listening.
Be kind to one another.
Yep, peace and love. This is Johnny and Ace, and we are out.